Hi. Go ahead.
Hey. Okay. You there, BG?
I am, yeah.
Okay. So you want to share a little bit about what I got to see today?
I do. I want you to tell all what it was like.
Well, I was sitting in a part of the courtroom off to the sidelines, I would guess you'd call. I was kind of in front of Heather, between the judge and Heather, and the clerk recorders and the prosecutors were all in front of me versus sitting to my side. So I got to see a side of the courtroom that a lot of people weren't seeing today. And it was just beautiful to see Heather in action, and the passion and the words that she spoke, and you could just feel the vibration of truth ringing from her and everything she said. But it was obvious she was making an impact on those people in that courtroom and standing her ground for both of us in the sense that they had no jurisdiction. But the fact that I could see these people's faces, I was seeing a lot of fear from them, a lot of snickering to the point of almost like, this is idiocracy coming from their faces. Foolishness, mere foolishness to them. But I felt sorry for them. It wasn't funny to me to see them doing that. It was almost like I felt pity for them to not know the truth, to the point that they felt like that's all they had to do was sit there and make those faces and jeer and make fun of Heather or me or whatever. But I really felt like today was a powerful turning point in that courtroom for the future of all courtrooms, because the judge was trying hard to get Heather tripped up, and he couldn't do it. He could not possibly do it. No matter which avenue he went or how fast he turned on her, he couldn't get her trapped in any way, shape, or form. And I think he saw what he's really up against. He saw the truth of himself. He had to. But I got to speak up a couple times and speak some things that I felt like I needed to say, and I felt good about it. I got to interject some things in when I felt like was the proper time, and it just felt good. But I feel like today was really a good energetic exchange of beings and a good learning experience.
Beautiful. And from what you just recounted to me, I would say it was a great evidence and a gift to you from your higher self, Randy, and from Source Original, that you manifested the seat exactly where you manifested it. So you had a front row seat to the faces and the real
Yes.
eyes of all the people that were there.
Yes. And, there was a lot of, you could tell there was some shame at some points, the way they were looking down and not being able to look at anyone, because you could tell they were sitting there just soaking in the truth of what was really happening and not facing it, because, someone who learns that something they've been doing all their life maybe it's the wrong way to do it, and all of a sudden they realize they've got to, I could see that look in their eyes like, oh no, so I can imagine how they felt, and that they had to make fun because that's all they knew to do at that point.
Right.
And basically, like you and I have talked about before, most of the time when you're interacting with another human being, it's just like you're a mirror for that person, and Heather was a mirror for a lot of people today.
Right.
And it was beautiful, especially from my vantage point, that only me and my elbow attorney, and actually I saw him nodding his head on a couple occasions. I think he was learning some things as well that wasn't a breaking point. But
from what you've told me and others I've spoken to, and my sense of tuning into it is that this was a big moment for each one of them. I know I remember telling you about how big a moment it was for Boss. I remember in Heather's appointed appointed
Elbow,
yeah, in D.C. And how he had kind of the epiphany moment that everything he thought he stood for as a public defender was all bullshit.
It's now, exactly, it's all going down the drain.
Right.
Yeah, that was interesting to sit in a courtroom that's supposed to have the power that a federal courtroom has, and just feel the power being pulled out of it by Heather's sitting there. Like I said, they just tried every way they could, every angle they could to, you can tell when you're in a courtroom like that, and I've noticed this in the last few times I've been in the courtroom, how the judge has his little game pieces that play up to him. It's all about that judge and his decision. They're not making their own decisions. And I think today what they realized, it's on them. It's not about listening to someone else tell you what to do anymore. It comes from your heart. Where do you stand on this matter? And I think people saw today, you've got to stand in your own truth and not stand in someone else's or what you think is someone else's truth. You got to stand in your own truth. And I think these people are starting to face that, and it's going to hit them hard when they get home tonight and realize and they recount all this was said today, because it's not going to be funny when they look in that mirror.
Right, and it's also the time now, and the loving irony of this from Source Original. The loving irony is that this is for them as well. This is their case as individual creator beings.
Exactly.
To transfer them out of the linear script.
And Heather made mention today, I've done this for every being on this planet, no one excluded. And how many times have you had a conversation with me where we've talked about the same thing? This is for everyone. There's no one excluded in this matter. No one.
Correct. That's correct.
So, yeah.
Excellent. And can you tune into your heart for a minute and give me a sense when in the proceedings did it switch? I get the sense that it switched, particularly on Judge Shirley.
It started out that way. It started in that position to where they were automatically coming out the gate at Heather.
Right.
Trying to get her tripped up on what her answer might be, or laughing at her, what her response was. He often would ask her a question, not give her an opportunity to answer it, or jump in the middle of her trying to answer it and say, I just asked you a simple yes or no, when that's not what he asked her. He was so caught up in trying to trip her up that he wasn't realizing he wasn't performing as a respectful human being himself in his own courtroom.
No, because there is no courtroom, and what he was doing was giving a beautiful illustration of the fact that there really is no. That's right. There's no judge. It's all a play.
Exactly.
It's all an illusion.
And he realized for the first time he didn't know how to fill that role.
Right. And what I wanted to say is, but there was a time in the proceeding where he switched out of his head, out of the script, and into his heart.
Right.
So.
Yes. I think when we were in the discussion of who gave you authority, I mentioned at one point, I had brought up in the proceeding on August 29th, when he asked me at one point if I thought I was God. And so I reminded him of that question and threw it back into his court. Do you think you're God? And I think somewhere in that, I think he sat there and thought about that question for a little bit and thought, who does give me authority to judge these people in the capacity that I feel like that I have over them?
Yes.
And I really felt like that, there was some changes taking place to where he was starting to question what he was really doing up there and what was really going on.
Well, and the power of that particular point was big. When he had done that to you before, it was just little Randy in the courtroom on the 29th, and he beat you down. And today, when you asked him that and you phrased it in a powerful yet loving way, it was big Randy standing there.
Yeah.
And the light bulb went on.
Yes, exactly. And was talking to someone earlier, but it just felt like that preparation on the 29th was for today. So we never know when in any situation we're in what we're being prepared for. So, you know, it was beautiful how it flowed, and I was just sitting there, and it's like, I have to say this, and the opportunity arose, and I got to take it. And they also,
Right.
you know, they brought up the sovereign citizen thing there. The judge was asking the prosecutor on her determination for what was brought up today, and she was alluding to the fact that Heather and I were basically sovereign citizens, and neither one of us have ever admitted
Right.
to being sovereign citizens. We both think the phrase is an oxymoron in itself because we're neither sovereign nor citizen. You know, you can't be both. It just doesn't work.
Right.
But I even, you know, spoke up to the point of I've never spoken to anyone or admitted or accepted the fact that I have claimed to be a sovereign citizen, and I do not take that claim on me. I'm not going to accept it.
Right.
So those were two instances where I got to speak up where I felt like that I had to, but Heather did a beautiful job, and I would have, I don't know how she does it, but she just, it just flows from her, and in such a beautiful, energetic way that it was just beautiful to sit there and watch her and the judge interact, and to watch those people in between the judge and her, and there's facial expressions they were making as comments were being said or answers being given. It was just beautiful. But some lives were touched today, that's for sure.
Yes. Well, and spreading throughout the planet, because people are following this and watching this and now hearing you as soon as I get this up and live. And, you know, this is not happening in a vacuum. This is in flow with all of the energies flowing in, and people can believe wherever they believe in the moment they are in their own energetic frequency range, but it doesn't take away that this is in fact so. And the world as we know it, the universe as we know it, is changing and evolving as we speak post-haste.
Right. And, you know, who gives us power over another being? No one.
Right.
We don't have power over each other. We have power with each other.
Right.
And that's where when we come to the table now, we come together as one because we're all important. No one's more important than anyone else here. And that's what's going on in the courtroom. We're at that breaking point where you're not that important to tell me that I've done something right or wrong to the point where you can control and manipulate my life and take my life from me anymore.
Right.
And who determined whether it was right or wrong?
And
who made that determination?
And in the same time, both you and Heather, because you're the ones who, you know, filed the documents, and you're the ones who are carrying out these last stages within their, you know, setting, their court setting, is not only that, but you're telling them, and no one has the power to say, well, because you used to wag your finger sitting up at the bench with the gavel,
Right.
that you don't get to be part of this, because you actually do get part of it.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of love going into this, and I was talking to someone earlier too. There was a beautiful situation that happened here this morning.
You have 60 seconds.
To the courtroom, and then brought me back all by myself. But it's that they don't want me interacting with a lot of other people for obvious reasons. But there's some beautiful things taking place just because that they're trying to manipulate the whole thing.
Right.
So I look forward to sharing some more stories, and once this is all over with, sharing the whole story.
Absolutely.
Because there's some really beautiful things taking place. People I can't share because of these telephones, but I long to share because people will be touched.
Great. I love you. We all love you, Randy. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Love you too, BZ. Thank you so much.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.